Hello, everyone. Just before I get into the podcast today, I wanted to mention that in this particular podcast, I'm interviewing Medina Labakan, who is a beautiful artist, as well as many other gifts that she has. So if you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Substack, it may be an episode that you would like to also watch because visually it is so beautiful and she shares some beautiful art. So enjoy the episode. And just one other thing I wanted to mention that I don't do very often, but if you are enjoying the episodes and the amazing guests that are coming my way, and there are so many more lined up right until the end of the year and even into 2025, I would really appreciate if you would like, share, subscribe if you feel called to do so. I'm getting such wonderful feedback so far from the guests, and I'm learning so much. And I really want to help get the message out to as many people as possible so that it can have a positive impact in lives. So, if that is something you feel called to do, thank you. And without further ado, enjoy the episode with Medina. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wild Woman Podcast. Today, I'm delighted to have my first guest from down under, which is
Oh,
wow, I'm so excited. And she's the most beautiful background that you will see. And we're going to talk about her art and all of the other things that she's involved in. Yeah, so welcome, firstly, Medina Labakan from Queensland, Australia.
thank you so much, Selena. I'm really honored to be with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm been really looking forward to it. And quite frankly, I'd just be happy to listen to your beautiful, lilting, musical Irish accent because I love
Oh,
it
I
so
don't
much.
know.
I love music and I find it quite hypnotic. So if you just want to do all the talking,
I,
that's
I,
all
w-
good with me.
I was going to say, I only hope my mother would agree with you. I don't
Oh,
think
it's
she'd call it
beautiful.
hypnotic.
Oh, it
But,
is. It's very sing-song. You sort of go up and down, whereas
oh,
Australian accents are relatively monotone and people tend
oh,
to speak through their nose. It's quite nasal. But
that's really interesting. I never ever would have thought of it like that. I suppose our voices such a novelty really as well. I love listening and talking to people from different places, and I think it's part of finding your voice as well. And I'm sure I'm meeting a lot of people who are like that. They seem to be finding their voice at this time, and men. I've met a lot of men quite recently where really their voice and their truth and everything is starting to come out, which is beautiful.
yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so well, Medine, going to just give a little bit of background to Medine, and then we're just going to get into yeah, your story, your life, your passions, everything. And I came across Medina, I have to say, on YouTube with her Arise Humanity YouTube channel. So even that title just, oh, I get a shiver now when I think of it. Beautiful, beautiful channel for anyone who's really interested in that arising of humanity and our truth and our freedom and our expression. It's a beautiful, beautiful channel and beautiful interviews. And as I said, she's from Queensland in Australia, and she has a background in multiple forms of creativity. We can see her art, which is just so beautiful. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, her connection to nature. She also is a singer songwriter. She's a published author. She hosts multiple radio shows, spiritual teacher, energy healer, just beautiful. I just love that connection of creativity, spirituality, expression, and holistic health. Can I start with asking you, because there's so many directions we can go in, what I'd love to ask you is just what is really exciting you right now, Medina? What's your passion just at this time on the planet?
That's a great question. I think 2024 has been a bit of a transition year for a lot of people. And I've noticed with a lot of my clients and a lot of the people that I talk to that the things that we were doing prior to 2024, sometimes they now feel a bit redundant. They feel like we have completed that. And I'm speaking about, for example, a lot of healers, energy healers and healers have been feeling like they don't want to necessarily do the healing anymore, but they're stepping into other areas. And I'm wondering if that's because we're going into a new age where we won't need to be doing healing anymore, because we're going to be having all the ability to come back to perfect, cellular resonance without any healers and things. So maybe that's why this is happening. But for me, it was very interesting because the circumstance happened where I was living on an island in Queensland, and all these, it just so happened that one of the owners of the property I was renting came over, and there were termites. And then they said that they had to put like a poison around the house to get rid of the termites. And I'm very sensitive, so I said, oh, look, I'm going to have to move. So we were basically energetically pushed out within 1 week. We had to move, basically. It was really quick. And so we moved to a place that I was really guided to move to, called Redcliffe, in a northern suburb of Brisbane. And it's so light here and so beautiful that the minute I moved here, it's really fascinating. I just felt inspired to paint. Now, when I'd been on the island at Russell Island, I'd literally done like one painting for over 18 months. But I got here and I thought, oh my goodness, I've got to paint. So I just took out all my paint brushes and my paints. And I have done about 20 paintings in probably about 8-9 months, and some of them are huge commissions. Like the one behind is a huge canvas, and there's other ones as well that I'd like to share a few later, but they're absolutely enormous. And so it just was the right energy for me to be in alignment with the inspiration that I had to paint. And it shows how important location is, because if you're in a location that is in alignment with your energy, it inspires you in ways that maybe other energies don't. Like for me, Russell Island was nice, but it was heavier energetically. And I just didn't have that lightness to do these, type of paintings behind me, where I just, that brevity, that lightness really inspires me with my artwork. So, and I got lots of commissions, which was lovely, from the UK and things like that. And so it's really just been all about painting and enjoying the beautiful walks around where I live. There are so many gorgeous walks all along the beachfront, and it's a peninsula, and there's so many wonderful places that you can walk. Beautiful, beautiful vistas over the ocean, and the energy here is just feels so much lighter, actually, because I used to live in Victoria, which is south of Australia, and I've been told that there's like literally a line above roughly around Byron Bay, or just below Byron Bay. And then when you go above that line, it feels all of a sudden much lighter in energy. And below that line, you can feel this definitive drop, in energy as you go further south. And that's very much so for me. When I lived in Victoria, it just became energetically oppressive. I had to move up north because the energy was not at all in alignment with me. So it is fascinating how powerful your location impacts your soul mission, and how you feel.
Wow, that's so interesting. It's really interesting. I'm just getting this image now, and I'm sort of feeling it myself, not exactly right now, that as we sort of move forward in this evolutionary process that we're in, do you get a sense that we're going to be moving more? I always go back to this sort of tribal, we're moving into the Aquarian age, and almost like, traveling the land to find our tribe. Like, do you think that's going to be more of a feature, that we're going to move in line with the energy, or that we will influence the energy where we are also, so that it will lift? Have you a sense of how that might
Well, I will
go?
say that I've had, talking to people, a lot of people mentioning that they're wanting to move, or they have moved. So I think there is a sense of people gaining more clarity about their own essence, and where they feel comfortable. And it's like we're really being guided this year in a huge way. One of the greatest spiritual lessons at the moment is to let go of any attachments that no longer serve us. And that can be location, it can be people, it can be, all sorts of things. And so that ability to sort of liberate ourselves from any attachments is also part of this ability to align ourselves with locations that are really in resonance with who we are. And I think it's really important to heed those inner callings when we get those intuitions and that guidance. And sometimes you'll notice that if you don't follow that, life can become more and more challenging where you are, because you're getting that guidance to go forward and do something and you're not listening. And so then you get more blocks and it becomes more and more challenging, and that's the way it works. So it's really important, really important to listen, when we get that guidance. And when we had that situation with the termites, I thought, oh, there we go. I've been difficult, I've got to go now. And I thought, how on earth am I going to move in 1 week? That's just too much. And off an island as well, because you had to book trucks and all sorts of things, and the ferries and all the ferries were booked in advance. You couldn't, and it all flowed, and we all got off the island. It was like a miracle, just in alignment. And it was also right at Christmas too. So we literally moved in a few days before Christmas. So it was just uncanny how it did actually happen, which blew my mind.
And you know what that makes me feel, and I'm feeling that while I, have been listening to that hopefully more in my life, that the more, it's like we're being called to live more and more in presence and in the moment and in the body, and sort of act from there. I'm finding that with every conversation I have now, that keeps coming up. And there's a beautiful lady, I'm interviewing her again this week, who talked about following your inner beat, your inner rhythm. And it's like what you're saying, but that calls us to go. I always see it like nearly standing on the edge of a cliff and going, okay, I just have to follow what my heart is saying here, even though I have no idea where it's bringing me. But when we do, it's like a new muscle, I feel, in my life. When I do it, it's very different to what I might have imagined in my former way of living, but it flows like what you described. You got off the island, even though someone else might say, that's crazy, leave it till after Christmas. Is this been a sort of, has this been a sort of a natural way for you of living because you're a very creative person? Always, like, does that come quite naturally to you?
Well, that's a good question. I have learned to listen and learned to go with that flow. And I try, and I don't really like the word try either, but I strive to always be in that flow and to be able to be flexible and adapt with the way that it all flows. It's like that expression, you make plans and God laughs, or something like that. Because it always works out often different to how you'd envisaged it. But if you listen to that inner voice and you be in that flow, it is incredible what can happen. Things that you just don't anticipate that are way better than what you're thinking. When you talk about being in presence, my greatest teacher for teaching me to be in complete presence has been my dog. And I have the most beautiful cavoodle called Squidge.
There with you, I think, is he? Does he want to say hello?
Well, no, I'd love to share a photo of him because he's so cute. But he's not here because he's very distracting, because he's so cute. He jumps up and wants my attention. But he is so completely present in the moment at all moments, and just gets so much joy from every moment and from life. And that is such a wonderful teacher. So I take my hat off to all the animals that are here to teach us so much.
Yeah, and that just brings me now, when you're talking about it too, when you talk about animals and nature, because you have a very deep, I suppose, connection with nature, don't you, through your art and your creativity. Was that always a part of your life, that sort of like, did you grow up living in nature, or how did that unfold?
Yes. Well, I did actually, Celine. I think being born in Australia, it's really conducive to someone with a love of nature, because we have so many beautiful animals and birds and such contrasting, natural landscapes everywhere. And I grew up in a house where we had a bit of land, and I would go off in the morning with my dog, and I'd just wander over the fields. There were orchards and fields, and there were dams and trees and things. And I'd just go off wandering and then come home, roughly around dinner time, it's so probably alien to kids today who are, on their phones all the time and on technology. But I just go off and wander, and with my dog. It's wonderful. And so I think I've always had that connection, and I know that it's so peaceful being in nature.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful place to be. And I just resonate with the animals and the birds a lot. And I'd love to share some stories too about different animals and birds and how they've influenced me too. I think it's appropriate on the Wild Woman podcast.
Yeah, it's been such, and even when I say that, calling the podcast, often people ask me, and it's very interesting because I'm actually going to I'm going to be interviewing men in the future as well, I feel it's like, I was saying that to someone, it's like I can feel the men circling. It sounds strange maybe to someone, but it's like the divine feminine. I sort of had to reconnect with that in me, and I'll continue to interview women. But also it's that divine masculine energy, I think, is starting to sort of really come in on the planet. And I'm just being shown men around me who are typifying that. They're sort of like, wow, what is this? But what's really beautiful, and I have to mention it just when you talk about nature and that connection, it was about a couple of years ago, and I was in a holistic shop here in Galway, and I got talking to a lovely young guy, an astrologer, only in his 20s or 30s. And I said to him, I had joined a drumming circle. And I said, my God, this energy, I don't know what's happening. I remember telling him, I said, I can literally feel it, like my heartbeat, my soul coming up through the ground. And he said, you have to read Women Who Run with the Wolves. This is a young guy telling me this. And I did. And it sort of fed into what this podcast has become, because I could feel it coming alive in me in the truest sense, not just the soft, lovely, receptive, that aspect, but also this almost raw power and creative thoughts. That to me is what it is. And it's so interesting that it's a young guy who pointed me to it, and he's going to be a guest in December, and he does astrology and stuff. So I thought that's a beautiful way to introduce the divine masculine probably coming in. So let's talk about nature and that connection, and how that's sort of that primal. I love that word, actually. It's really beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
That has been pivotal, that book, for a lot of people. And another similar book in terms of its impact on our consciousness is the series of Anastasia books, Ring of Cedars, because she, again, sleeps with the wolves and the bears, and she's very deeply, deeply connected at the deepest level to nature. And the animals have no fear with her because she has no fear with them. And it's just like this incredible relationship that she has with everything around her. And that to me is like perfection. I love the thought of that.
And it's so funny. I don't want to interrupt you now, but just when you say that, I went looking for those books a few years ago. I could not get them. So maybe it's time now to find them again. They're quite difficult to find.
They are, and they're very expensive online. I remember I had read them, and I wanted to have some copies, and I asked the universe, I said, please bring me this book. I went to visit a friend, and she was having a garage sale, and she had 3 of the first 3 books of the Anastasia series, and she goes, and she was selling them. She said, you have them. So it's amazing what we can manifest.
But, well, exactly. Yes. So next time we talk, Medina, I'll be reading them, I'm sure.
Oh, you'll love them. You really love them. So, in terms of my connection with nature, there are particular energies and animals and birds that I've really had quite a fascinating connection with in this incarnation. So the first one I'd like to perhaps share is that owls have had a huge impact on me. I remember I was told many, many years ago when I first started on my, really the spiritual path that was really committed. I was told that I had a spirit bird and to just, go in and see what that was. And I closed my eyes and I meditated, and this giant owl came into my third eye and was just flapping like it was saying, finally, finally we're connected. And this big owl. So I know my spirit bird is an owl, and I've had owls come to me at really crucial moments in my life. For example, when my marriage was getting on its last legs and it was a complete disaster, I remember asking the universe and saying, please give me a sign. If I'm meant to leave this marriage, please give me a sign. And I went to sleep, and literally I woke up that night and a giant owl, and it had white flecks in its wings and things, was flapping at my window. And okay, I get it. Thank you.
Wow.
And it was fascinating. And then another moment when I had a huge owl visitation, and I feel like it might have been a spirit bird this time rather than the actual bird, but it's a little hard to tell sometimes. But I had a baby pass before it was born, and I was due to have another baby. So I was very, very obviously concerned, that everything would go well. And again, I said, oh, please give me a sign everything will be okay. And I remember looking out the window not far away from me, and this giant owl was sitting on a chair looking at me, and I turned to call my family members over to look at it, and they ran across, and as they ran across, I turned back to look, and it was gone. So it was, these sorts of things. Another time I was wanting to move house, and I said, if this is the right decision, please give me, a sort of a confirmation that this is the right way to go. And I remember I was driving, I think it was the next day, I was driving into my house later on in the sort of early evening, and a giant owl was sitting on my gate. So many owl experiences, and it's been a beautiful connection for me. And then
Can I just ask you about the sorry, Medina, just because I don't in day-to-day life see owls here. It's just such a different sort of environment, I suppose I live in, even though I'm by the sea. It just isn't a part of my world, even though I remember making an owl out of something years ago. Wisdom, I suppose, isn't that like, what's the sort of, there's an energy around different animals. Is that how would you sort of describe the energy of the owl?
Yes, to me, what I pick up with an owl is a sort of like an ancient energy of deep wisdom, deep knowledge that's sort of been passed down. And there's a real connection to, I think, I have a previous life where I was a Native American Indian medicine woman, and actually Medina, which is a name that was channeled, I brought it through when I was meditating, does mean medicine woman in one of the Native American Indian dialects, but the energy of the owl is sort of feels like it's connected to that Native American Indian energy as well, and that is very powerful in my field, and I have a very strong sort of memory, really, of being in that lifetime, and it was a beautiful life, actually.
Wow. And how did you reconnect? So I want to talk more about the animals as well, but when I'm listening to you, and I can sense it obviously, and you're a spiritual teacher as well, and there's a very strong spiritual essence or connection or awareness to you. Was that always when you describe again you as a young child? Was there a particular event, or was this just always a part of your world, that strong sense of spiritual connection? Or how did
No, there wasn't actually. I mean, I grew up in a family who didn't really have any sort of strong spiritual connection. My mum said she meditated, but it was more of a relaxation for her. She didn't necessarily believe in God or anything like that. So I didn't grow up in a family that had that. We went to church a bit, but then, my dad, when his mum died, he said he didn't like God anymore because his mum had died, and then he just didn't have any connection. So it wasn't like a deep connection.
He wouldn't do that.
That's right. It wasn't like a strong connection, is my point, that they had. So it was sort of ephemeral depending on the circumstances.
If life goes well, I'm all in.
So very conditional. So so what I guess I had a very strong connection to nature, but I didn't have a real sense of divine, conscious divine connection in terms of my spirituality till around the time my children were born. And I think children bring us great gifts. And it felt to me at that moment when my children were born that I needed to do a lot more work on myself to evolve my own soul growth. And so from that moment, I was very committed to sort of developing myself on my spiritual path and developing my connection to the divine. So became much more conscious at that moment. And I think, you know, each child brings you a gift. And so that was beautiful that they were able to bring that to me at that time. I had tried to meditate many years before, but it just didn't seem to really flow in the same way. And I guess I wasn't ready or something like that. But I think it kicked in when I was in around my late 20s, early 30s, that real spiritual connection. And I knew that I was really incredibly committed to my own soul growth, because I knew that this is one of the major reasons why we're here, is to sort of evolve ourselves on this journey and take the opportunity while we're here, because we can do so much more in this 3D reality than we can on the other side in terms of our evolution in a sort of an accelerated way. So I was really, really committed to that. And then I just, just all took off in different ways. And I started teaching groups, meditation, and then I started bringing through my gifts from other lifetimes and doing more training. But really, I think a lot of the training that I've done here, such as extrasensory perception, healing, and Pleiadian light work, a lot of that is just a triggering of things that our soul's already done before. So you're just really activating the things that we already knew. And so then, you know, I started to have a lot of clients and run groups and do different things. And yeah.
And did that obviously felt very natural to you? It wasn't, I'm going to go and train in such and such because I'm a bit curious. It sounds like it was sort of very ready to be activated, as you said.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's something, when I think about it and you're talking about it now, there's something in my heart that was activating it. My heart was opening and it was activating more to be able to I don't know, just integrate it, you know, and process it, and to be able to really align with what I was doing.
Yeah. And it's because that word just comes up so much for me now. Like I would have spent not years dabbling. Every time I had a problem, you know, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I started doing Reiki. Reiki 1 was my first, you know, when life was a bit whatever, you know, something
yes,
in you.
I
You know,
hear
it always
I'm a Reiki master too.
Yeah, and it sort of starts, but just the activation that you say, like particularly now, I suppose what's my question really around that is I'm feeling everything because we are going through a very accelerated evolutionary process, and I think anyone, even if you can't put words on what's happening, I think everybody can say, wow, the world is crazy and all of this, so much is happening. But it seems it's more, it is, I feel, more support of that activation because more light is coming in. Can you talk a little bit in terms of, do you talk about it in that way? Because I think it's a very useful way for people to understand if they're not necessarily spiritually inclined right now, but are feeling maybe a bit disempowered in their lives. How would you talk about what's happening that might help them realize their power and who they are?
100% agree with you. I think that there are all these high level upgrades of light, you know, solar energy, light coming down, and it's really activating all aspects of our DNA, because we used a very small percentage of our actual true gifts and our potential before, because it has been suppressed in our DNA. But all this light and everything that's happening now is triggering it. And I know so many people, including myself, are saying that, you know, we're getting all these weird aches and pains. A friend the other day, she said to me, "Oh, I felt like I was having a heart attack." And I said, "Oh, yeah, my arm went really weird too. And I was hoping I wasn't having one as well." But this, I believe, there's so many of these ascension symptoms happening because our whole body is changing from a carbon-based body to a crystalline body. And so we obviously, this is a process that is huge, and it's not going to be just seamless when we just step
or overnight
easily into this crystalline
yeah.
body. It's going to be quite, you know, involved and complex. And, you know, so many people, you know, vertigo, aches and pains, you know, headaches, and all the things that people are reporting. You know, a lot of this is that we are really being encouraged to be completely self-nurturing at this moment, and to really be mindful of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies, and how we can best nurture them at this time. And you know what, the things that we used to do before might have been fine, but at this point, with everything happening in the energy, we need to do more than we did before to support our own growth and evolution, because it's just incredibly accelerated, which is good news, because the collective consciousness has allowed us all to shift more rapidly forward. But it is a strain on our bodies, and it feels stressful, like even emotionally, mentally at times. I mean, I had a beautiful friend who passed literally about over a week ago, and that was a shock. You know, I had a few days where I really felt my energy just sort of go down, and then I had to sort of sit in that and work through it. And then after 2 days, I was able to come back and center my energy, but I had to allow myself to feel grief and all these things. And, you know, we're all going through that process as well. So I just think that just to trust that, you know, the divine is in charge here. You know, God, there has been a determination for humanity to evolve and to move forward, and nothing can stop that. You know, it's already written. Many spiritual teachers are saying that our progress has been phenomenal and better than could have been anticipated as a collective, you know, humanity. So that's really, really positive. I know Patricia Cota Robles talks about that from Era of Peace, how incredibly well humanity are going in this process. And so just to, you know, go into that center within, where there's a peaceful space, we're able to release and let go of all the external worldly cares, and just go to that space that knows that you are an eternal divine being. And so that you're always going to be existing, you know, on some level. Even if we go to source, we're still existing. So, you know, just trusting that you're an eternal being, and that this is all divinely aligned, and to sort of have faith and trust in this process. And I know it's hard because it's an unknown, and, you know, obviously humanity haven't been through this before, where a whole planet has ascended simultaneously, you know, along with Mother Earth. But it's just something where we really are being tested to utilize all our spiritual gifts and abilities, and our spiritual connection, which knows that we are divine eternal beings.
Yeah, so beautiful. And what I'm learning or finding through this process is that the safest place is in my body, whereas we have been often conditioned to believe that no, the safest place is up here, but it's actually the reverse. And the more we start to unwind or unravel all of that, I can really, and it's like a tipping point. There's something that's happened. And it's just for people who may not connect completely with the divine or God or spirit, or, you know, But I think
It
what
can be
really
nature. It doesn't have to be
exactly,
God or
yeah,
divine. It
and
can
the
just be.
essence of creation. I mean, it's basically
Yeah.
exactly. But I think
Yeah.
what I've found is when you come into the body, you feel it. So you don't have to believe or learn anything anymore. I don't know how you feel this, but I found in coming into my body, that connection just comes online automatically because your senses start to woo, you know.
Yes.
Isn't that
Yes,
you
totally.
know? And then animals, my sense of connection with animals, like you've described, is huge. We had a dog when I was a child, but now I don't have a dog, but when I meet them or pass them, I can feel them communicating with me. Like, it's unbelievable. I really feel that's because I've come into my body, through trauma and grief. As you say, we're up here, so we're just very easily, as we know, conditioned and programmed, and we sort of loop in the same, don't we, sort of behavior. Is that a big
Yes.
shift you're noticing with clients or people you're working with, that head to heart sort of into the body?
Yes, I do think it's about us learning self-love and coming into the heart center, which is in the center. So your mind and your root chakra, when you bring them together in the center, in the heart, that's where the manifestation begins, and the real good stuff happens. So it's like you bring it down into the center. And I think more and more people are opening their heart with these energies and learning to love themselves more, because that's the foundation of love for others, when we can love ourselves more. And I feel that is one of the key ingredients. And, whenever something comes up when we're hard on ourselves, just being able to give ourselves without judgment, that sort of encouragement and support, as we would to, our best friend or something like that. Just going inwards and feeling ourselves being sort of held, that sort of thing is really important at the moment. And my dog's scraping on the door. He wants to come in. Shall I get him? He's
Yeah,
really cute.
do. He wants to be part of things. We're talking about the animal kingdom and nature.
He definitely wants to come on board.
Oh, oh, look, he's
He's the cutest
gorgeous.
thing.
Oh,
He's
he's gorgeous.
adorable.
What's he called?
Squidge.
Squidge. He
Because
looks
he's
very
really
squidgy.
cuddly. He's squidgy.
Oh, he's beautiful. And he's the
He's
same. It's
adorable.
like those eyes, when you talk about nature
Yes.
and
Yes.
animals. I mean, has that been such a big, oh, he's so beautiful.
Isn't he gorgeous? Here you go,
Squidge
babes.
is the perfect name. And because I'd just to talk more about the animals, because you talked about the owls. I just find this so, yeah, just so interesting. Like, in terms of our evolution, are there particular animals? I know people talk about dolphins and everything, but even in nature, there's this reconnection, isn't it, that's happening because nature is leading this. So,
Absolutely. So true.
yeah.
I think it's an essential aspect of our being here on Earth is that, it's like a quantum field, and we're connecting to all life here, which enables us to really grow and evolve. And I have so many instances of amazing things happening with animals. For example, snakes. We have, as you know, the most poisonous snakes here in Australia, and so many stories I could share with you about snakes. But we even had a tiger snake, which are deadly poisonous, in my sister's bedroom.
Oh my God. That just
It got
sounds,
in
I
the
can't even relate to that. It sounds so,
well,
I don't think I've ever
it
even
got
hardly seen a snake except in the zoo.
I know, because you can have them in Ireland.
No, in the zoo. That's scary enough
That's
for me.
amazing.
Yeah.
It got through this tiny gap in the hallway door and went down into a bedroom. And so, we were literally every year surrounded by snakes everywhere. And I have a snake as my Chinese horoscope sign as well. And I often would dream about snakes, and snakes are about transformation. And there was one dream I had, for example, which has significance in terms of the Aboriginal folklore, that a blue snake, it was like they call it, I think, a spirit snake, a blue snake, bit me on the leg. And then I woke up and I had 2 prong marks on my leg when I woke up. And, so this was apparently some type of spiritual initiation that I'd been through when that happened. And even one time my dog was barking, and I went over to my dog, and this snake had risen up high and was swaying, like cobras. And it was like a tiger snake, and it was, all these sorts of fascinating things. So yeah, snakes have had a lot of impact on me in this lifetime in terms of their energy. And I've also had huge experiences with dolphins and whales. I had 2 dolphins swim up to me in open ocean, and the first time it happened, I saw this fin coming towards me, and I remember thinking, I hope that's not a shark. I really hope it's not a shark.
Oh, there's 2 extremes there, isn't there? Dolphin or shark. Life or death.
That's right. And
Oh my
it came
God.
right up and swam around me really fast and flipped a fish, and it was just so joyful. And then similarly, another time, same thing, it swam around me in circles and flipped a fish and just swam around. So that was pretty amazing. And another time I went on a whale, a cruise to see the whales, and there was a giant whale with a baby, and it came right over to the boat. And I remember the cruise person who was speaking said that they'd never had a whale stay so long with the boat, and it just stayed the whole time. It wouldn't go anywhere, and it came right up, and it was looking me in the eye, really close. I could see its eye really well. It was really close, and that sprayed me with water. I felt like I was being christened. and we were just sitting there, and it just such a profound connection that I felt with this incredible animal. And then when it was when the boat, we had to eventually leave because the whales weren't leaving, so we had to eventually leave. And as we were leaving, its fin was going up and down. It looked like it was waving goodbye, and I just had tears streaming down my face because I felt like I was leaving, a long lost family member or something.
And do you feel they're sensing, like it's like they're called to us to rekindle this relationship that is naturally, like, because most of us just are going around in phones and disconnected. Do you feel that's even becoming stronger? Because dolphins they've a very suppose high frequency energy in terms of what's happening on the planet, don't they? They're
healing, very, very high frequency. They're definitely triggering in us this ability to really upgrade our energy in the same way that we're getting these upgrades in the light that are coming down. And then also you think of whales, and they hold the Akashic records, so they have like all the store of all divine universal wisdom and knowledge within them as well, that when you interact with them, it's activating within you your full potential as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's very, and as you're talking, and ever since you've come on the call, I always say, if anyone ever doubted energy, the power of energy, I feel it with every conversation I have on Zoom. And when you came on, Medina, and even put up the animals there in your art, I could just feel it. Like I feel somebody switched something on in me, like, and it's that connection, I think, with nature that is so important, isn't it? It's such, like, this doesn't happen unless we sort of work with nature. Like nature is nearly, it sounds like nature is calling us to support this process, because Earth is evolving and we're on it. So
yes, the animals are here to support humanity, in our evolution. They're here through unconditional love to help us. And I know that there has been talk of calling all animals divine beings as we move forward, as opposed to calling them animals, because animals can have a negative connotation, but they are all divine beings that are truly here, I think, as well, to support humanity, which is so selfless and unconditional. And I also think the connection that you're feeling is a beautiful flow between us as well. I'm feeling this beautiful energetic flow between both of us. I'm picking it up, you know, really, really powerfully as well. So it's with you, it's with the animals.
I know at this and this, but this when I said this to you earlier about coming out of the head into the body, this has been the biggest. Now I know it's being supported through the light codes and the frequency coming in, but it's like you can't access it unless you're in your body. I don't know. I just get very passionate about that now, saying to people, if you're in any way nervous or sad or anxious, it's the only answer is nature and your body, and you don't have to believe in anything else, because that is where that safety, that essence, that life force is. It's not up here.
Well, remembering too that the dark tried to disconnect us from our connection to earth by giving us rubber-soled shoes and having shoes which, well, we weren't able to ground. So really being mindful of taking your shoes off and walking with bare feet, putting your feet on the earth, putting your back to a tree, connecting with the tree. I did both those things today, even though some of the grass was a bit prickly where I was walking. I was still trying to you know, ground, and you know, just really grounding makes a huge difference. They had voltage meters which were checking when you had your shoes on, and the voltage or the electricity, the electromagnetic effect coming from the earth. And there was zilch with, you know, rubber-soled shoes. But then the person took their shoes off and held that voltage meter, and all this energy came through. So I think that we need to mindfully do this as often as we can, daily if possible. And, you know, there's things also like grounding sheets we can put on our beds and those sorts of things as well. But grounding us is going to really help us at the moment through this process, and also asking to ground to fifth dimensional earth, not just the third dimension, but the ground to the core of fifth dimensional earth, which helps to, you know, bring us into this new energy as well.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say, because I recently, well, over the last while, started doing a lot of the podcasts in my bare feet. I wasn't always, depends on the weather, and I can feel the difference. Like, and I stand outside. Now we are coming into autumn here, but still, it makes a huge difference. Really, really does.
Yes.
I suppose it's
Yes,
depending
great
on.
idea.
And what other animals? I mean, we talked just before we came on air, very interesting, because I think it's really good just to bring our awareness and our attention to divine beings, I will say, other divine beings. And I mentioned the mermaid that has become a sort of through my own sort of spiritual work, a mermaid has really come in as working with me. How would you talk about the energy of the mermaid?
Can I perhaps share with you my mermaid painting?
Yes, do please.
I love mermaids. I just love them. All the beings that are, you know, multidimensional beings that are around us. And, you know, they say that we have aspects of this within ourselves often if we resonate with it. So I feel like I have a connection with angels, a connection with mermaids, and a connection with fairies. So all those things are very prominent for me. And I love unicorns, you know, that sort of thing. So all that resonates. But this was a painting, quite a big one, you can see, that I painted for a commission for the UK. And so I do really love the energy of the mermaids, their connection with water, which of course we're made up of water, and water is so important at the moment to be mindful of, you know, blessing and being mindful of having that communication with water, and mermaids really represent that. And then of course you've got their connection. I've got the dolphins there, and the fish.
You can just feel the energy. How do you, when you go to paint, Medina, do you just get sort of an instinct or a calling, oh, that there's a particular, like, is it mainly nature that your artwork, it's mainly nature, is it?
Well, yes, I did do a galactic goddess the other day, because I've got a strong connection to the galactics as well. So it just depends on the energy. I think I'm guided, you know, I'll get an inspiration, which I'm sure comes from upstairs, and then I'll go with that. With this particular one, I was requested to do some mermaids. So that was handy because I love doing them anyway. As a commission.
So you get,
But
yes, commissions. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, I think I sort of like tune in with the fairy and the reindeer behind me. I was chatting to a beautiful lady in she's in Bali at the moment, and she is a fairy communicator or a fairy channel. And so we had some beautiful conversations with the fairies. And then I was really inspired to do the fairies and the reindeer. And she said that the fairies and reindeer actually have a beautiful connection with one another. You can imagine, because reindeers are very sort of gentle and soft and sweet and in their energy, and then the fairies would really appreciate that, I'm sure. So that's why I wanted to put them together
Beautiful.
in image.
What would the fairies want to say to us now? You said you had a lovely conversation with her about when you,
yes.
what sort of message
They're
that
so
give us?
uplifting. Like, they're so kind and so encouraging. They're like these incredible, life coaches.
Oh, I love that. I need to
They're
get
so
myself a
sweet.
fairy life coach for sure. That's
They
brilliant.
would say they would say that I think that we are going really well to cut ourselves some slack and to not criticize and judge ourselves, and on this process of being here on earth, and to learn how to love ourselves and to honor our own inner child is really important to them. To also be creative in whatever way we're guided. There's so many ways to be creative. Some people might cook, some people might do gardening, some people might do, crocheting. It doesn't matter, but just wherever you're guided to use your own creative gifts, because they not only do they help the sacral chakra, which is the emotional center, but they help us to find our joy, and they help our divine connection. And I think that is one of the really powerful things we're here to do, is to create. And it's inspiring for all the beings that watch us here. And, it's a gift. In truth, it's a gift to be here on the planet at this time. And so when we can put that into creativity, and also creativity can be used to express, what are perceived as negative emotions too. If we're feeling really awful, sometimes using your creativity to express that really honors and acknowledges that emotion and allows us to sort of release it and be able to transmute it, but also not to suppress it or ignore it or pretend it's not there. So creativity can be used to express the joyful things, but also the feelings that we find hard to own.
That's so beautiful. It's actually very moving. When you're saying that, I could just feel it. It's such a beautiful message that it's not just about, yes, creating something beautiful, but if something very difficult, it's sort of the divine, that spirit's way of working with you, isn't it? To sort of, that's the sort of feeling I'm getting, like that it's here to sort of support us. It's not, it can be a beautiful expression, because I think we've been so conditioned to believe we're just consumers. That's been another aspect of cutting us off from who we are, that we are creators, not consumers.
It's funny you mentioned that. I just had this huge garage sale, and we basically just got rid of everything. And it was really funny too, because we're going to be moving into, we're sort of going to stay around this area, but be moving into like a mobile home, because it's quite liberating living that way. And again, you're very connected to nature because you're always in nature and everything. And so we had this garage sale, and it was so fascinating. This guy walked in, beautiful spiritual being. You could see his energy was, I think, had some Aboriginal in him. And he said, I'll have all those things. And he just bought heaps of that stuff. And then it was all gone. It was like, wow. And, these things, they hold energy. So the less things you have and the more simple your life is, you actually feel lighter, and you feel more liberated and more connected to spirit, more connected to the divine, because those other things often just get in the way. And I'm not attached to anything, no material possessions. My attachments that I'm learning to be able to release, and I think I've done quite a successful job in doing that is more to do with the loved ones, people that I like that perhaps are not wanting to have the same interaction with me that I'm wanting to have with them, and I've had to let them go. So that's been the attachments. But we get tested on the attachments that are most profound for us in this process of evolution. And so that for me was a test. Material things, I can pretty much let go of everything, but I do say I like to keep some of my canvases because they're like my kids.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, the energy from the painting behind you is just, I mean, it's you obviously as well, but I can feel it. It's just incredible. It really, really is so beautiful. Can I ask you, this is something as well around this topic of creativity that's always sort of intrigued me, because growing up, and I think it's many people's experience, there's sort of this view there are people who are very creative and artistic and those who aren't. You're sort of put in boxes. And then I went through the process. It was really after cancer that I was sort of guided to start writing, and my creativity started coming out. And it was through the Artist's Way book. And I started to sense, and what I wrote didn't come from me, the person. I know that I could feel it just come through me. How would you, to me, it is the expression of that divine creative essence that we are through us. Like that's what we are. Yet we have been sort of taught to see it as something separate. How would you, for anyone listening who's really goes, oh no, I'm not creative. I mean, just by being alive, you have to be creative, don't you? You know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that what often I hear is people have an experience where something happens to them where they're told that they're not creative or it's been suppressed somehow. I remember one of my clients said to me she had a teacher who said to her, she did a painting, a little painting, and the teacher said, oh, you're terrible at drawing. You should never do drawings again. And she suppressed it till, in her sort of late 50s. And then part of her session with me was to reclaim that creativity and do more drawings. And she was beautiful at it. She did drawings and they were wonderful, but she hadn't done it since then because she'd had this voice that she'd taken as some sort of authority type voice that said to her that she didn't have the ability. So I think, we program ourselves with our belief systems and our thoughts that often don't even come from us, but they have a really powerful impact on how we're able to be in the world. And so being mindful of any negative self-talk or negative belief systems which you're holding on to that say, I can't do that. I remember I've never had any formal training in drawing or painting at all. And I remember
My God.
I remember I did my first painting. I thought, I don't know if I can do this, but I got it. This was like, quite a few years ago, 25 years ago or something. But I got a canvas and I had to go and I thought, it's not too bad. I'll do it again. And each time I did it, it felt like I was getting better and better. And actually what it was doing, it was freeing me up to express more of my essence every time I did a painting. So it's like you're stepping out of jail and you're releasing all that sort of the boundaries and things. And when you tap into that real self-expression and you're able to put it in whatever form it is, because I've written songs, I've written books, I've done paintings, and it's always appropriate for the time that you're doing it, and it can be a different sort of calling at each time depending on your energy. But every time you put that into some sort of tangible form, it is such a beautiful feeling. I remember there was a song that I wrote and it was called Never Alone. And I always had this really strong image of a children's choir singing with it. And I just held on to that. And then one day I was at the school where my kids were going to, and I was talking to the musical teacher, and I said, look, I'm really guided to do the children's choir with this song. And she said, look, I'll have a listen and see what we think. And I played her the song and she said, absolutely, we're doing it. So this whole big children's choir came in and I recorded the song, and it was the culmination of this very powerful soul dream or mission that I'd had to record it with the children's choir, and it just felt so beautiful when I'd actually done it, because it felt like, oh, it's hard to explain with the English language, but it felt like everything was in alignment. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. When you say there, it's very hard to explain with the English language. How would, yeah, what do you mean by that?
I find the English language limiting, in terms of how we use words to express what we feel. And to me, actually, it's better to express the fullness of things through music. But the English language is restrictive. I think that, for example, in the Italian language, is it the Greek language? There are like 30 words that mean love, whereas in English, there's one word that means love, and I find that sometimes there aren't the right words to describe what I want to say. Even though I did master in English literature at uni, I have a good grasp of the English language. But to me, and maybe this is my cosmic origins, there are so many better ways to express what we're wanting to say than the limitations given by the English language. And of course, we know that there is quite a bit of cabal influence in language spelling. It spells the black magic, a lot of the words and things. And I don't know if that's what it is that is part of the restriction, but there's just not the right sort of expansion in that language to express everything that I really want to say, that can sometimes be said better with sound and music.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting you say that, because I've been feeling that recently as well. I keep going, oh, do I have to use that same word again? That has to be another word. And I interviewed a beautiful lady as well. It's my second interview. It'll be coming out later this week. And she was talking about that, for the sort of evolutionary times we're going through and shifting into more multi-dimensional ways of being. We're going to be called on to develop, she even said, this new language, because language is not supportive of, she gave an example of, and I just thought it was beautiful, because we've been so linear in right and wrong and black and white and up and down, and that is no longer serving us. So she even gave one example, I just thought it was beautiful just to share here, is it could even be using it's relevant or not relevant to me. So if I'm choosing to do something, rather than saying something is wrong, which is straight away in judgment, just within the restrictions of our language, relevant even sounds much more, doesn't it? That's got a nice.
Yes, it's a great word. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't resonate.
Because we're all resonant, and it's all very much around, being a unique expression of the divine. And when you know that, then it just becomes about what's relevant to you, as opposed to something being this judgment of right and wrong. I just think it's very interesting. Now, you've brought up language. It's very interesting. Yeah.
And I think part of that could be also we're tapping into that, we're going into far greater levels of expansion as we go into fifth dimensional energies. And so I'm feeling the fifth dimensional energies, and the language that I'm using is much more three-dimensional.
Yes. I think that's probably what you're saying. It's lovely when you say about the creativity gives you, then you sort of break free a bit from that. It's like, I'm just feeling that as you talk, it's like we've been kept so restricted in our language that there's definitely something to that has kept us sort of in this limitation, because you're struggling. And words, as you said, they're so, the frequency, I've noticed if I use a different word with somebody, their response is different. So the energy and the vibration of the word is very powerful, isn't it? It's really can change, as you said, our spelling and spells. So there may be something. Do you think, I mean, I know we talk about telepathy and where we're going, and I can sense that a lot with people now anyways. Light language, do you work with light language? Is that part of?
Yes, absolutely. I do a lot of light language for particularly for the planet and for humanity and for healing. If there's someone that needs support energetically, I do light language for them. It's soul to soul communication at a soul level, and there's no restrictions on that. And you can say to your light language, please send to the planet whatever it needs at this moment. And then you do your light language and it sends out soul to soul communication for whatever the planet needs. And it works with animals. Animals love it. And it's really raises your frequency and really supports the planet. And I also can do it for myself sometimes to lift myself up or clear any blockages, but also I particularly are using it for planetary healing.
Beautiful. And can you describe, for anyone who has never been exposed to light language, how would you describe that?
Well, it's really activating a language that is your soul language. So you're expressing the deepest essence of your soul's core, and it can be different for different things. So for example, if I'm asking for soul language to help support, say, there's a person who's gone through a really difficult time and they need energetic support, and I do soul language for them, it's very different often if therefore I'm doing soul language for something completely different, like, there's a tragedy that's happened on the other side of the planet and it's a different thing, and then I'll get a completely different language come through for that, for both things. So it can vary depending on what you're utilizing it for. And there is the ability, like you say, with telepathy, to tune into the light language and say, what is the meaning in this light language? And you ask and you tune in, and often you can get the meaning through of what it actually is saying. And you can also sing your light language, which is really beautiful. And
You might do a
yeah.
little. Would you like to do a little bit of light language? Or
Sure.
can I just
Sure.
I don't know why I just when we ended up, but how did you discover or tune? Was it through being a singer that you feel that connection became more easily to you? Because I haven't accessed, I don't think. I mean, the only way I can sense it is maybe on my own, out in my little room here. And if I was ever working, I've lovely Tibetan sound bowls, and I'll find a sound just come out, like a primal sound come out of me. But I don't know if you'd call that light language, but because I think many of us are very cautious. As a singer, you've obviously a much freer, probably throat chakra and.
Well, I think that there is a particular way that you can access your light language, and it's by doing a numerical sequence which resonates with different parts of the body, and you say that the numerical sequence in that order with the parts of the organs, and that flow in that direction activates your light language. It's very interesting. So I have that technique that I share with people often if they're wanting to learn their light language. Okay. You're welcome to run through it with me and I can show you how it works. But it's a sounds that are, you couldn't make the sounds if you consciously tried to make them. They come out in a way that your tongue and how you speak is something that is bypassing the conscious aspect of your mind, and it's going to these unconscious aspects of your soul. And I think some religions have perhaps called it tongues or speaking in tongues or things like that. But
if you were
it is another tool in our toolkit that's really helpful. Sorry?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. No, it just came to mind when you're talking about it, that if you were to sort of tune into the energy, if you wouldn't mind, of Ireland now, would something come around that in terms of light language? What would come to you? If you wouldn't mind, now I'm sorry to put you on the spot. If that feels okay for you to do that.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just do that. I'll tune into Ireland and I'll ask for whatever's appropriate for Ireland to come through at the moment. Let me ask. Listen to my name. So somebody could go in and ask, could you please translate this into English, what this means, and see if you can get some sort of meaning in the words telepathically as well. And the thing with that, it's sort of somebody, I did something similar recently, and somebody said it sounded a bit like Morse code. That was really interesting. But it does vary depending, what you do it for. And I know that there's a lot of light
beautiful
language
vibration. Sorry, I just felt it's like the land was calling, like saying, I'm here for you. Like this vibration of the land is like, remember, I'm here for you, with you. I just got that beautiful. I was like,
oh, that's
it's
beautiful.
lovely.
I
It's
love
like,
that.
I'm alive, I'm here, feel me
Yes.
and come out and
Yes.
work with me.
That resonates completely. You're very clever. It's like it's saying that I'm part of you, you're part of me,
Mm,
tune into me, connect
mm.
with me, and I can make a fuller version of who you are. Ah, absolutely, that totally resonates. Oh, that's beautiful. It actually makes
Oh,
you
it
feel
is
teary.
beautiful.
When you have a universal truth, you feel teary sometimes. It's
Yeah. Oh, I
like
could
when you get
just
the
feel it
goosebumps.
as you were doing it. So
Mm.
thank you so much. That's so beautiful. And I'm sure for all land, because the fairies as well. Did you want to? Because I know we'll be drawing to a close shortly, and just as well in terms of you wanted to. Did you want to show us another painting as well? Your connection with nature. It's such a gift, Medina. I didn't really know where we were going to go in this part, and it's just such a beautiful gift, and it's such a lovely reminder to all of us.
Oh, thank
What
you.
a
Thank you.
support nature is to us through this process, because
It totally
we
is.
are nature.
Absolutely. I think we forget that too
Mm,
sometimes. And we can utilize our connection with nature very much at the moment with this really accelerated transition that we're experiencing. So this is a painting I did recently of dog and kitten, I call it. And it's got the butterfly itself took ages. It was just that little
oh my
butterfly
God.
there because
How
it was
long
so.
does they take you? They're so beautiful. And it's the energy. That's what I'm very drawn to in art. Like you can feel it. It's the difference. I think you can sense that in different artwork. We're all drawn to different things, but definitely there's a beautiful, uplifting, vibrant, alive. I can't even find the words because the language again is restricted.
Oh, well, that's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you, Celine. I really appreciate that.
Mm,
I I I think that it helps us this work to connect to our inner child, and also it's high frequency, so it's connecting us
mm.
to highest frequency, and also to our divine connection with nature. And I love, for some reason, I really love cats too. I love painting cats. I've done a lot of cats, and I I like the combination of those energies together. For some reason, I was guided, with the birds there, and then the butterfly, and then the cats, and I like the love heart too, because always I think of love and hearts and things when I think of animals, because they just bring so much love and joy to our existence.
Yeah.
And so I always like to try and sneak a heart in this.
But you can feel it even if you didn't. It's just stunning. And their eyes, there's something about their eyes. I feel like I'm looking into their soul. It's like
Oh,
this just really, yeah, beautiful connection. If people want to find out more about your artwork or commissions or anything like that, I mean, I'm going to put everything in the description box. Is it a case of going to your website, or how is
yes.
best to?
Absolutely. Yeah. So people can order commissions, paintworks, and also I have boutique gifts like cards. I have a Christmas card it's sort of based around the fairy reindeer. If I can share it, I can
Yes,
show it to
please.
people. And you can order sets of Christmas cards for your loved ones for this Christmas. If interested, I'll just bring it up on
And
the
you want to
screen.
get order, well, if you're particularly depending on where you are in the world, that's not, that's
Yes,
fine.
yes.
Plenty of
So
time.
I don't know if you can see that very well. I might have to
Yeah.
bring another one up. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, he's a
So
little
there's,
Christmas hat.
it's got, Merry Christmas. He's got a Santa hat, and there's Santa and gingerbread and all that. There's a little
Beautiful.
sleigh with elves as well, and some more deer. But so I was asked to do Christmas cards. And so that was my Christmas card that I wanted to put out. And inside it says make a wish, because I do feel like we're really co-creators at the moment, and we're here to create the reality that we want to bring in as we step into, fifth dimension, and it's going to be based on what we want to create. So it's thinking about what we want to create, and making a wish is really important at the moment. And so that was what inspired that inside the card. And I also have a workshop coming up, a fairy workshop, but I don't think actually when you post this, I think it might have finished, because it's toward the end of September. But I was wanting to invite you, Celine, if you'd like to join us as a free guest to the fairy workshop that's coming up at the end of September. Would be an honor if you could join us.
I would be honored. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
That's
so welcome.
gorgeous, Medina.
For the wonderful work that you're doing. It's nice to be able to support one another.
It is. I mean, it's such a gift. I just find it's just, these connections are so, just they feed my soul. And it's really been as,
exactly. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And you know what it is too? It's because we've been so isolated from one another for so long. We often, light workers, were dropped into families or situations where they were the only light worker in that environment, and they were there for a reason, to bring their light, but they felt disconnected and isolated often from the people around them.
Yeah.
And so now to have the ability to reconnect with all our Lightworker family and our soul tribe is like we're being let out of jail. It's like
it is.
such a liberation,
and
so joyful to the soul to be able to connect with energies that resonate on the same wavelength as our own. And that's one of the very beautiful gifts at the moment that we're being given.
It is. That is so beautiful, because, we can go into, and it's not a judgment of anyone else, but it has been, I think, it's going full circle to where you started at the beginning of this podcast, when I asked you about what you were excited about, and you were saying about, there was always a lot of emphasis on healing, and we seem to be, moving more into sort of creating and creative energy. And not that we always were, but I feel that as well. It's like, and particularly for probably light workers or people who have felt a little bit lost and maybe didn't feel they ever fitted in, often went down paths that were very self-destructive. I did that for many years because I was in such emotional pain of not being able to find a sense of, what am I doing here? Like I really, really, and then we start to judge ourselves. And then the healing path starts for a lot of people like that, I think, because often you have to hit a rock bottom or something has to happen. I'm finding it with all of the women I'm interviewing. And now it seems like, yes, now it's time to get out and shift this energy and start creating. So just to finish up, and you said it in your Christmas card, so what would be your wish? We're moving into 2025. I don't want to wish the year away, but it is rapidly approaching. And we've the last few months of Capricorn, don't we? Pluto in Capricorn. So 2025, what's your wish for that? That's going to be quite a shift, I imagine.
Would that be, well, I have a personal wish for myself, but I also got a collective wish for humanity. Obviously, my collective wish for humanity is that we learn to unify and to come together. And we're not being asked to come together with energies that are disparate to ours, that don't resonate with us, but being able to unify with all the souls that are on the same wavelength, so that we can sort of get rid of all the division that's happening in the world and realize that we're all one family, we're all one consciousness. And for people to have that awareness that, you know, sometimes the family unit has been the cause for people to have a reason not to connect with other people in a more expanded field, you know. In the quantum universe, we are all one soul, we're all one essence, and learning to honor one another's differences and to be able to just unify is my greatest wish probably for humanity at the moment. And my other personal wish, what would that be? Just, I think, to be able to express the divine soul mission that I was contracted to do when I came in. Before I was incarnated, you know, we make a contract of what we're choosing to experience and choosing to express in this lifetime, and to be able to fully honor and express all aspects of that contract, which is what I agreed to do before I came in. I would ask for that to be fully, you know, completed in this lifetime in divinely aligned ways. That would be great, because then I know I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Gold star. Well, beautiful, Medina. You're definitely doing it for sure with your art and your work with clients and the beautiful light language. Just I think, isn't it, a lot of us, we again, I don't want to go off on another tack now as we're finishing up, but we're so told to be doing. A lot of it is just to be completely in our natural
so
frequency and state can change.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it's not just about, you know, doing for the sake of creating or whatever, but one of the reasons that it's really powerful being in a mobile home too is you have the ability just to be. You don't have to do anything specifically. You're not in any particular timelines. And to feel the flow of the energy in that moment and to be in that flow, whatever that is. So it could be different every day, and you might have a sense of what I'm going to do the next day, but then you wake up and the day feels completely different, and you're just being, and we don't have to do anything in order to be worthy. The fact that we were born and that we exist means that we are divine, you know, infinite beings, and that we don't have to do anything. And I think often men find that difficult to process, because they feel that their worth is often attached to, you know, has been to a job or to, you know, something that they're doing, as opposed to just their pure essence is everything that is important, and to learn to just exist and be peaceful with that, you know, I don't have to do another painting in order to be worthy. And, you know, I have in my past, when I was younger, felt very driven. But, you know, being able to release that sense of being driven is a good thing, because I don't have to do anything in order to be worthy.
It seems that the challenge is, well, not even the challenge, is undoing as opposed to doing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why children have a head start, because they come in and they can do all that, and we've got it knocked out of us in this process of indoctrination and programming and brainwashing that has been the, you know, system set up by the dark, which of course now we realize it's all being demolished and deconstructed, which is fantastic. And so that's all positive for everyone.
Yeah, just hold on to that roller coaster as we go for a bit of a ride, as It is a bit of a ride, but it's such an exciting ride, and keep the creativity. It's just stunning. It's just so stunning. Anything we can do to lift our spirits and nature and the animals and just connecting with all of those energies. It's just a beautiful message to leave us all with today, Medina. It really is. I just feel so lifted as I start the day here in Ireland and you're finishing your day in Australia. So to all
it's been
listeners,
such a joy to chat with you, Selena. I really, really loved it. And I must connect again soon. It'll be wonderful.
For sure.
And of course, you're coming to the workshop anyway. So
I am. I was going to say you're coming to Australia. Well, hopefully.
Well, if you do, you're welcome to come and stay.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Medina. I'm going to put all Medina's contact details in the description box, so do feel free to reach out to her, because there is so much she offers and does and contributes to humanity. So thank you so much, Medina.
Oh, thank you, Celine. Such a joy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And until the next time, take care.